Hey everyone, you are listening to another episode of the All Things Private Practice podcast. I am your host, Patrick.Casale, coming today from sunny St. Pete, Florida. And I am joined by a friend and colleague of mine, a force in the industry, Marquita Johnson. She is an LPC in Georgia, dating coach, therapist, motivational speaker, business speaker, and also a author. So I'm really happy to have you here. That's pretty incredible considering we're going to talk about solo mompreneurs and solo parentpreneurs and also imposter syndrome and all the other things that you want to talk about.
Well, thank you so much, Patrick, for having me. I'm excited to talk about all the things. So, just like all the things private practice, I'm excited to talk about all the things.
Well, I know that one of the things you want to talk about is introversion and how a lot of things can be superpowers and kryptonites almost, especially doing all the things that you're offering. I imagine that can get very exhausting and energy conserving, and just being really protective of your energy is really important for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think starting out, I'm a shining object syndrome type of gal. So I can be really like, ooh, look at that. Ooh, that's interesting. But I learned to like really focus. And when I started to focus my private practice on like millennials and servicing like specialty millennials, that really like spoke to me. And then I kind of went from that era, like everything millennials. So dealing with like dating, relationships, career, and just where they are at that, juncture in their lives, I found to be fascinating. I'm millennial-ish, so I'm right at like at that end, kind of holding on. But conserving your energy is important, especially in being a therapist and what we do. I think I learned it later in in my career. I wish I knew it sooner, but the good thing about that is, experience can be a great teacher, and anytime you learn it is good as opposed to not learning it. So I've learned how to really lean into self care and manage my expectations. Like that's been a thing for the last like 3 or 4 years for me, because I found it wasn't people really putting all these expectations. It was me putting expectations on myself. And so, and just really navigating that and being honest with myself about what I needed and what I wanted at the time. And then really managing that has been helpful to conserve my energy.
That's really well said. And I imagine you need to conserve your energy with all of the things that you're doing. You're also a single parent. And talk to us about what that's like as an entrepreneur who's juggling these businesses and all of these things and traveling and then also being a mom.
Yeah. It's the real thing, mommyhood is like full time. It never stops, even when I'm out of town. Like FaceTiming, checking the ring to make sure he's out the door. Interesting enough, he does a lot better when I'm away from home. So I don't know what does that say. Uh, but I think it's good for both of us. It's that healthy dynamic of the relationship and modeling, like going after your dreams. And I can recall my son doing a project a couple of years ago about the person, that he was like most proud of and admire. And he put me on there and was like, I'm proud of you, mommy, for starting your own business. And I was just thinking like, wow. Um, just to think like your child has this blueprint too, if that's something that they want to go after, as far as their life goal, then they see like, hey, it's possible. But it does take a lot of, balancing and juggling things. And I always give the example of recognizing what's glass and rubber balls when I'm juggling. And glass is me and my family, and rubber is pretty much everything else. So
Mm.
I try to like maintain it in that way. Like, okay, I don't want to drop myself or my son. And so like everything else becomes rubber. So sometimes I may not make, this amount of money because my greater yes is to making my son's football game or getting our movie nights and, hanging out. So really it's about prioritizing for me.
That sounds like a balancing act and really trying to have intentionality behind how you schedule your time and what feels most important for you. And I want to circle back. Like you said, he's told his class that you're a hero to him. You're a huge influence. And how did that hit home when you heard that?
I think for me, it brought the realization of what I was doing because I'm a kind of person that I just kind of do it. And then later I'm like, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. Like, that was neat. But in the moment, I'm not thinking like, oh, yeah, I'm really like breaking, the stigma and barriers and things of this sort. And it was just like, I'm just doing this thing. And really, entrepreneurship came out of being a parent for me. It was a necessity. And I was just talking to someone the other day about this is I got tired of asking my job for time off with my son. Like it became like I'm at work, but I have to like choose work over my son. And that made me feel like awful because I'm servicing other people and being present for them, but I couldn't make it to muffins with moms for my son. And it was just like, but I want to be there for muffins and moms. Like I really like those things. And so it really just for me pushed me to entrepreneurship. I was like, I can't this tension and that I'm feeling, I can't feel that when I'm sitting with someone else helping them get through their issues and crisis, but I'm like, not present for my own kid. And that was just really important to me to be around for all the moments and so he can have those memories. And I wanted to be a part of that. And for me, it just made it that push that more evident. And so it pushed me to entrepreneurship. Motherhood did that for me. Like it was like my freedom was worth like more.
Wow. That sounds like such a powerful, powerful catalyst and realization to say, these are my priorities and I can't do these if I'm working 9 to 5 every single day and
Right.
have to have permission to just step away for the things that are so important, which is ridiculous. How did you, it sounds like that's how you decided to kind of leap into entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
Was there fear there? Was there,
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of imposter syndrome of like, I'm a single parent, this has to work?
Right. It was kind of like, you know, um, this is a shot. And I didn't have a backup system. So that was a lot of fear. And I am like a calculated risk taker. I'm not a risk taker, like, yeah, I'm betting it all. I'm kind of like, I'll bet some of it, but I need to have like this cushion. So it was really super risky. And the interesting thing was, I was making the most money I made like in my life at that particular job. And I went to another job and took like a pay cut that was, 10,000 plus dollars. And that was like, what are you doing? Like, you really aren't making a ton, to make sure that the household is afloat, but you're going to take a pay cut? Like, really, this doesn't make sense. And, for me, it was just really trusting that I could make something happen. Like, I didn't know how, but I just knew like if I stuck with it and I could eventually like do something with it. And so it was really like trusting myself and just looking at my history of like, okay, you've done things like you, I did kind of the core beliefs that core values, like, okay, you got yourself out of tough, situations before and wanting more for my son. And again, to me, it was truly about that freedom and feeling like I had all these skills and I wasn't really growing too. So I felt really like stagnant in my career. I was working a job and just like every day going in and I could see the people on the little commuter bus at like 70 and 80. And they were like, I was like, there's no way this can be my life. I was like, if this is my life, like, I don't know. And so it really like propelled me to say like there are ideas and things that I wanted to do in the field that I didn't really see being done. But I was like, hey, let's just try it. Like if it doesn't work, that's fine. But you will regret the chances that you don't take. So I was like, let's do it.
That's really beautifully said and so powerful for people to hear to just take that risk. And I do think that's what being an entrepreneur is, right? Like we are taking risks, we're stepping into some uncertainty and unknown, and we're creative in terms of how to figure it out. And it sounds like that was your process. And when you do that and you decide, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure this out. What's your blueprint at first? Is it just kind of flying by the seat of your pants? Like, I'm going to start a private practice. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out.
Something like that. Like I'm the person that builds the thing after it's like, oh yeah, like let's do this. So I started to like seek out connections with other people that were doing the things that I wanted to do. Like that was important to me to like to see somebody or someone like doing the things that I was interested in putting myself in the right position. So I started being less focused on like money and like job titles and things like that and started looking at my collective experience of the various places that I've worked. And then I said, Marquita, if there's not a like job title, like just create one because I can't do just one thing. So I was like, doing one thing is just so like stagnant and like restricting for me. And so I was like, I can't imagine like just being in private practice either. And it was like, well, who said you had to do that only? And so I was like, oh, so a part of it too was me giving myself permission to like really dream and really create something beyond even what I imagined. So that intentionality to surround myself with people, to expose myself to different opportunities and just really embrace the uncertainty that you talked about. I really leaned into it and I would say I hugged it out. So I like gave it a bear hug and I was just like, we're in it, to win it. So and amazingly enough, like people are drawn to that and like being yourself and just, embracing the journey, I think really helped me manage the fear and uncertainty and surrounding myself with other entrepreneurs, listening to like audibles and just really engrossing myself in a lot of things regarding entrepreneurships and creatives and going to conferences and putting myself out there, which was really scary because I'm different. I'm different. So yeah, I think that was the scariest part is like, because your energy, as you talked about, like I get very, aware of like my energy. And I'm like, I don't want to put myself out there to all these like strangers. In the back of my mind, I had my grandma like, are you meeting people on the internet? Like, I've met people on the internet. So yeah, it was like, I don't know these people for real, but those individuals I met, I've made some of the best connections, over the internet and Facebook groups, therapy groups, outside of therapy groups. So just really like leaning into all of my resources that are at my fingertips.
I hope everyone that's listening is really taking that in, especially if you're questioning your choices in terms of taking that leap and being vulnerable, because I think a lot of us just have to put ourselves out there and
Mhm.
we have to just try. And it's so important to just embrace that fear, like you said, and give it a bear hug. I've been thinking about fear more like if you're driving a car, using fear as a gas pedal instead of a brake pad or a brake pedal, and just truly, really moving into that because I think a lot of us build the plane as we fly it, so to speak, and like don't always have a plan. And you're so right about the connection and just surrounding yourself with people who are doing cool things because it creates this energy and then you're like, "Ooh, I can do cool things." And like now I'm around like-minded people who are doing this stuff and it helps with the feeling stagnated. It helps with like the limiting beliefs of this is all I can do. And for people who just want to do private practice, that is great.
Right.
But I do think so many of us wants to do so many different things. Call it neurodivergence, call it shiny object syndrome, like call it whatever the hell you want. But ultimately, at the end of the day, stimulation and seeking out new opportunities are really important.
Absolutely, Patrick. Yeah. And it helps you grow, not only as a clinician, therapist, helping professional, social worker, like it helped me grow in my own personal life by, taking these risks and, really like dreaming and hoping beyond like what I could see. And it was amazing that people were attracted, to that. And there were other people and making these amazing friendships and partnering with other colleagues and ultimately doing what I always wanted to do was help people transform, empower, and change their lives, like on a level I had no idea was even possible. Just because when I went to graduate school, like private practice was the creme de la creme, like that was it. Like you have arrived. And I was just like, is that it really? Like I was like, I don't think that could like and that's not everyone, for me, it was really like isolating, although I'm an introvert, like private practice was isolated. I enjoyed connecting with others, and that's kind of a misnomer. Like introverts like people for the most part. It's just that people can drain us, and we have to be mindful of the energy pull on us because people, I think, are attracted to introverts just because they like deep, meaningful relationships. Like they're not really surface people. Like if they connect with you, they want to connect in a meaningful, deep way. And that can be draining. And so when you think about, oh, I'm connecting with 5 people that way, and then 500 and 5,000, 5,000,000, it's like, ooh. That's a lot. And so just being mindful of like how to, go back and recharge and how to use that energy to your advantage.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think about a lot of extroverted introverts in a way of people who really love deep, meaningful connection, like myself, but ultimately, surface level artificial connection I can't do. And I think that can make me look like an asshole sometimes. But ultimately, I want to be really protective of my energy so that I can focus it in the ways that feel really positive for me. And, I think with all the stuff you're doing, speaking at conferences, you're speaking on different platforms all over the place. And it really is important, like prioritizing, right? Like family life, business life, Marquita's personal energy, like everything has to be in synchronicity. Everything has to be connected in one way or another, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah, that synergy that you talked about that you get from being around others, but then there's intentionality about scheduling that time because again, for someone that likes a lot of things and interests are varied, you can get, easily sidetracked or you can get in a silo, and during the pandemic that definitely happened to me because I'm also working on a PhD amongst other things. And so I was like head down trying to finish these internships. And while everybody else was like, whoa, I have so much free time. I was like, I feel like the walls were literally closing because now everything was, at home for me. And so it took me a lot of intentionality to kind of get out of that cycle so that I can begin to like re-engage with like colleagues and schedule those lunch meetings and get creative about ways to connect because that's important and like it feeds my soul. And so it helps that creativity like keep going. So yeah. And getting out to Hawaii was like amazing. So
Yeah, it was great to meet you in Hawaii. And I think that the more opportunities we have like that to travel, to experience food together, to just really connect. And I think those relationships are really meaningful and so powerful too, to see so many people doing so many cool things. And it's really inspiring to just say, it doesn't have to be one way or another. Like, our pathways are all going to be unique. And that is the beauty of being a small business owner. And tell me about, I talk a lot about imposter syndrome on this podcast. I want to know how yours shows up and how it did show up throughout all of these ventures.
yeah. For me, it was like giving myself permission to like do things. It was like, oh, well, can I do that? And I think a lot of times it's a question like, is it okay? Like when I added the coaching and like creating cards, like conversation cards, because again, therapy had been so narrowly defined, like counseling and and then I'm thinking like ethically. And so like clinical work had been, really um, it shifted so much like in the last 10 years and thinking about like we're the newer generations and now, people will be looking up to us because I've been a therapist now for 12 years. And every time I say that, it's like, wow, you've been doing this a long time. But it's really like for me, giving myself permission to do all the things and utilizing all the knowledge that I have. The thing I love about counseling and therapy is that we have like just a amount of just knowledge in our heads that the common everyday person doesn't have. And the skills that we have when someone walks into our space or logs on online, like we may take that for granted and we minimize that often. And that was me too. Like, oh, everybody can't do this work. And even if they have the knowledge, the hard part of it is, what's also the invaluableness in being a therapist and being a counselor, being a helping professional. Like, it's hard work, but it's hard work. So it's both of those. And for me, it's remembering that only I put the boundaries or any kind of barriers or roadblocks or limitations on the possibilities of what I can do. And so it's likely if I'm questioning, can I do that? I definitely should do that. So, and recognizing that everybody has some like part of imposter syndrome, that pause of like, nobody's done this in my family, or I haven't seen, this out in the world. And you may be that one. And it starts with the one. Like, so one person takes that leap and then the others are looking on like, oh, wow, they're doing it. And although you come, it's against struggles and setbacks, because I've had all those, there'll be a whole nother podcast. But I just really knew if I continued to stick with it and you could start to see the little results. So I'm always about that light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm very optimistic in nature anyway. Maybe that's what helps me with therapy is that I believe change and healing is always just around the corner. And so for me, it's really remembering that and remembering my why as to why did I start this journey and tapping into that and looking forward to the future.
So many good thoughts and ideas and quotes in that segment right there. I'm thinking about it's hard work, but it's heart work.
Yes.
This is right around the corner. Like so many good little snippets. That might be the episode title. Um,
I
but
love
what you're saying is so important, and I've been talking with people more and more often about this on the podcast. Is like therapists have so many skills, and
it.
we really limit ourselves in terms of what we think we bring to the table, right? And I think if we ask a lot of them, hey, what do you bring? What do you do well? What kind of skills do you have? It's really hard for people to name that for themselves. They're almost like, I don't know. I know I'm a good therapist. Okay, great. But what kind of skills and traits go into being a good therapist? And how can those be applicable in other aspects and journeys and ventures as a small business owner? Like there are so many ways to help people that don't require 60-minute chunks of time one on one. And the more we get into this work and burnout increases and people are kind of tired of screen time or whatever the case may be, I think it's important to start to recognize how much more there is to do in conjunction with doing therapy.
Absolutely, Patrick. Yeah. And I think the creativity, therapists are some of the most creative people I've seen, natural problem solvers, wordsmiths, so a lot of those talents and gifts and skills and abilities can be easily transformed and transferred into something else. And I like this Gandhi quote is our beliefs become our thoughts become our words become our values, and our values become our destiny. Because I'm so mindful of the words that I utilize. I've always been that way. I've always loved poetry and speeching and words and just knowledge. And so really leaning into all what encompasses you as a therapist and letting that be your superpower because the one thing is there are a lot of people that are therapists and counselors and helping professionals, but there's only one you. There's only one Marquita. A lot of therapists out there, there's only one person that's going to do therapy the way that I do it. Even regardless of the therapeutic interventions and techniques. So you have that superpower. It's your secret sauce or special flavor. You have that. And it's really believing that, leaning into that, and then sharing it with, the world, which, they're waiting. They're waiting for you.
If we could have like a audio non-visual mic drop, that would be it right there. After Marquita just said what she said. But so right, they are waiting for you. And I think we get so caught up in this imposter syndrome, this perfectionism of someone else is already doing something similar to the idea that I have. So why would I try? And I want everyone to think about that. Think about how many private practice therapists there are out there, even though the idea is the same. Because like Marquita's saying, you are you. There's only one of you. You have your own unique personality and the way you show up. And I think that goes with coaching, speaking, podcast episodes, therapy. It doesn't matter. And I had my same self-limiting beliefs for so long of I can't start a podcast because there are other podcasts out there. What the fuck? That's ridiculous. I can't be a private practice coach because there are other private practice coaches out there. And again, we attract and repel, right?
Right.
We are going to attract people based on how we share, how we walk through this life, and how we kind of put ourselves out there. So I think we really have to embrace that as a superpower and start to recognize that we all have unique offerings that can really be used to support other people.
Yeah. Yep. That is so true. When we think in the grocery store, the amount of, varieties of bread or water, bottled water, it's oh yeah, that makes plenty of sense. It's oh yeah, that makes sense. Or you think about car dealerships or, nail salons, there are a lot of them. And waffle houses, there are two waffle houses literally in my neighborhood. They built one literally you could throw a rock. I'm why did you put a waffle house right there? There are literally two waffle houses, very close proximity, like a second, a few seconds from each other, it feels like. And so in that, I think that's a part, as you said, Patrick, of limiting beliefs. Like too many people are doing it. And it's like, no, really? Is that what you're using to talk yourself out of your destiny? Like, nah. Or the perfectionism, which that was a part for me being an author. Like my first book, I was stuck. Like I write stuff for fun. Like I'm that person. I have tons of notebooks everywhere, just full of my thoughts, full of things that come, to me in therapy while I'm doing a session or while I'm driving or when I drink, I wake up with thoughts. And so it's just like, really? So you're just doing nothing with all of that. And I had to hire a book coach, and there's no shame in my game. Like I had to hire a coach because I was stuck, and I wasn't stuck for months. Like I was stuck for years. I had done a podcast talking about this book that I was publishing. I had even done a book signing event with no book. Imagine, had tons of people fly in and show up. It was amazing. I love that event. Um, and no book. And so for me, it was just like, okay, like this is beyond just like a little bit of a problem. And I'm like, it's not a writing problem. I have the content, but it was me sitting down with those thoughts, like going through it and combing over it and editing and worrying about, oh, I'm publishing this. Like people can go back and actually reference this one day and look at this like, whoa, what are people going to think? Like, and like I'm a therapist, so is this going to be good enough? Like, is it going to be a New York bestseller? Or is it just going to collect dust? Like all of these thoughts. And it was just like, Marquita, get the book done. What are you doing? And my coach was just like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be finished. And he was like, really, it doesn't even have to be finished. He was like, you can write a book and just like write another one, like to be continued. I was like, you could do that. And yeah, so that really helped me like push it. And I was just like, hit submit and just do it. And, now I'm writing a second book. So obviously it wasn't like, earth shattering hard, but, you had to get through that barrier or that roadblock for me.
Powerful. And I always preach that it can't be perfect. It just has to be visible. It just has to exist because it never will be perfect, right? Like we could go back and revise and edit and change it a million times, but we can convince ourselves that it is not good enough to put out to the world. But that's our shit, right? Like that's not everything else. It's just us saying, hey, I don't want to be seen this way. I don't know if I'm ready for this. I don't think it'll be good enough. Someone's going to critique it maybe. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's real. And that can happen. Like, I'm not going to lie. I check my podcast reviews. I'm like, who's saying negative shit out there, you know? But at the end of the day, it's like, that's not why I'm doing this. So I
Right.
think it's much more about just having the information out there because that's what feels useful for us as, creators. And good for you for just allowing yourself to work through that and now writing a second one. It's really remarkable to hear that because I've been stuck on my book. So I'm probably going to be messaging you for your book coach
Absolutely.
information.
And you're inspiring me to do this podcast idea. I've been sitting on like all these podcasts. Like I don't need to do a podcast too, but I love podcasts. It's one of my favorite ways to speak. One is because I don't have to get dressed up, makeup and hair and all of this. I'm like, I could just,
No one's going to see either of us
right,
right now. Like
right.
me sitting in my dad's shitty extra office. And like, at the end of the day, we prevent ourselves from doing these things for so long.
Yeah.
I wanted to start this podcast for almost 2 years. And then one day I just put it out there. I'm like, I'm starting it. Like I told my VA, let's figure it out. And I'm not going to lie to anyone listening. I have never listened to a podcast. I've never listened to my podcast. I've never listened to an episode on anyone else's podcast that I've been on. Sorry, y'all, but I'm still creating it and people are still listening. So, like, that's a good example of how you just need to put yourself out there to the world.
There you go. Patrick's your example. Start that podcast right now.
Start that podcast, write that book, put yourself out there for conference engagements. Like Marquita has some trainings on how to kind of get booked and how to get some speaking engagements going. So there are so many resources out there to do the things that you've been dreaming of, but you've been holding yourself back from because of the narrative that you're not good enough or your information isn't as qualified as somebody else's. Just put it out there. I hope, that's always been the message of this podcast. And hopefully people can really embrace that. And it's just powerful to see people doing these things. Like you inspire me because I bought your course, like your little recording course of like how to get more speaking engagements. I'm not going to lie, I haven't opened the email yet, but like
Yeah.
it's in my inbox. And that is a goal. One day I want to get more of those. And I know you're doing that too. And, all of these things, I think we just have to get out of our own ways a lot of the time.
True. That is so true because people are willing to buy it, purchase, support you, share your information, but you have to create it. Like you create it, and the people that are supposed to be attracted to what you're offering will come. And it's like trusting that process. Like what we tell our client, all the stuff we tell our clients, it's like, yeah, do all of that. So,
We are
yeah,
so bad about not practicing what we preach as therapists and
absolutely.
like being like, oh, I can give that advice to a friend or a colleague or a client, but me, hell no, I don't deserve that advice or I can't take that advice. Like it can't work for me.
Right. Yeah. Offer yourself that same, like, kindness, that same patience, and, really believing that you can do it. And like Patrick was saying, I still check my Amazon reviews. Like, somebody gave me 4 stars. Like, what was that about? Because, like, I think a part of being a therapist is, we struggle a bit with perfectionism, like wanting things to come out great and, perfect. But, we can procrastinate too on things by wanting this perfect idea. And so that's why it took this book so long. And people were literally, I have money to buy this book. Where's the book? I don't know. I'm working on it, and it's like, okay, for the last time someone listened to my podcast, like episode from years ago, and emailed me like, where to purchase the book. I said, I'm so tired of people asking for this book. Like, I have to get it done. Like, I have to get this book done just to say, here's the link. Because it's a reminder, like I said, I was going to do something. And that's a core value for me, like commitment. Like I see things through. That's a part of who I am. And so it was also, for me, a reminder that you're not seeing this through and we need to remove whatever barriers in your way that's blocking you from adhering to a core value of yours. Like my commitment, my word is my word. And so for me, that was also like a huge kind of light bulb or aha moment.
I love that. I hope everyone can hear that and really embrace that. Like I think for so many of us, that's kind of the process is putting it out there, then holding ourselves accountable to it by doing so. That's anything I've ever created. This podcast, my practice building, like my retreat in Ireland. I put it out there. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing. I just put it out there and was like, oh, people are interested. I guess I need to build the landing page, find the retreat venue, figure out the catering, like figure out how much I'm going to charge. I created a landing page, sent it out. My VA was like, you just did that incorrectly. Now I have to spend all week and fix it. And like, it's sold out. Right. And like, that's the reality is like, we just have to put our ideas out there and get over our own stuff sometimes and work through it really hard to allow ourselves to just be vulnerable and to be brave in terms of how we move in the world.
And somebody's waiting for it. I think that's the other part of it. Just like with your therapy, like I started looking at, I spent all this time in school, like I'm a lifelong learner. I spent years and a lot of money, not to mention. And so like I had to even deal with the money mindset of sometimes like, I'm going to spend what on, this conference or this retreat. And then I started thinking about these student loans that I racked up. And although, I'm very grateful for my education, it's opened up, plenty of doors, but it's an enormous amount of money. And so I started, shifting my money mindset a bit. It's like you can spend this on like one course and, going to a conference like where I met Patrick, where I met so many amazing people. Like it may have been, a couple of thousands of dollars. Like I had to take off work. I, had to get childcare and doggy care together. I'm a dog mom too. So I had to arrange all of that, which in of itself being a single entrepreneur mom is like, yeah, that's enough work. But I'm like, if I did all of that, like that's done. I'm definitely going to like Hawaii or Ireland or whatever. Like I definitely Maui on my way. So for me, it was really about making those like cost analysis benefits and really investing in myself because I'm always going to pay dividends. Like the knowledge, the connections that I gained there were invaluable. Like there's no way I could have done all of that while sitting here in Georgia, like doing something virtually. Like being in that space to me was so important and so fulfilling and really life changing it was worth, if someone said $10,000, like it would have been worth every single penny.
I love that. I really, really love that. And it's such a good reframe too to recognize like sometimes we have to really invest in ourselves by spending the money. And the return on investment is so huge because as entrepreneurs, we are the vessel in our business, right? Like, so we need to be able to support ourselves. And if that means surrounding yourselves in really powerful environments like that, spending the money on the coaching, spending the money on the course, like whatever you need to do to see that long term return on investment. And that doesn't mean it's going to be a short term return on investment. It hardly ever is. But the amount of empowerment and motivation and momentum and personal growth and connection, those are invaluable. And if I hadn't gone to Hawaii, Marquita and I would not be sitting here doing this
Right.
conversation
Right.
because we have to put ourselves in situations and environments that are out of our comfort zones to be able to meet like minded people, to be able to support one another and really re energize ourselves too. And I think that's the most powerful part of all of these connections because you're right. Like COVID happens, we're in our homes, our heads are down, we're working in our businesses, don't talk to another fucking human being all day. And connection is so important. Connection is so crucial in these industries. And I think just being able to build each other up too, because I believe that your success is my success and vice versa. And we're going to support one another through our journeys.
Yeah. And there's like being around people where you don't feel like it's all competitive, like, oh, I can't share this or ooh, like, yeah, that's not me. So someone's like, oh, Marquita, like, how did you book speaking? I'm like, oh, here you go. Like, what am I to like not share this information? Someone likely shared it with me or at least pointed me in the right direction. And so for me, like giving back is rent for living. It's our ability to expand and grow. And like Patrick was talking about, like, I don't know who is in his circle and, people that are going to be attracted to what he has, but, I want to help support his vision and support his dreams and his hope. And he can do the same and other colleagues. And that way we grow and we touch all these millions of lives that we never knew would come, through our counseling door or virtually office. Like there's only so many people we could see. Like I was like, you're limited in that capacity. Like there are only certain many hours in a day. And of those hours that you want to spend or need to spend seeing clients, but by starting that podcast or writing that book or, creating that course or becoming a coach, like you'll reach even more, even more. So that's kind of like the icing on the cake.
That's a good finishing note. I have so many quotes from you that I have to now consider like so many episode titles. I'm like,
Right.
damn, Marquita, like you're blowing my mind over here. And I love it. Um, I want to just shout Marquita out because she's got so much going on, juggling a lot, clearly, so passionate about what she does and who she helps. I got to see her speak at the conference in Hawaii, and that was really powerful. Um, and like, just continue to really be excited to see where your career takes you and to see where this journey leads you to because you're helping so many people in one way or another. I do want to have you just tell everyone where people can find more of you and how they can book your services and what you offer. So please feel free to take that time.
Yes. Thank you so much, Patrick, for having me on the All Things Private Practice podcast. And you can follow me. I'm on Instagram, Facebook at Millennial Dating Coach. You can check out my website at millennialdatingcoach.com or millennial C, the number 3.com. I offer speaking coach services. So to help really empower specifically therapists and counselors, around the arena of utilizing their voice and platform that they have to share it with the masses and really make money. Interesting enough for something that you're already doing kind of one on one. And I have my book, so B12 being the one, the relationship vitamin. It's on Amazon, so you can go grab it and give me a review too. That'll be nice. And my new book is launching hopefully in March of this year. And this one is really special to me because it's sharing how I book over 100 speaking engagements in 1 year. Not necessarily advise it for someone, but if you're interested, like I'll tell you how I did it. And it's like the introvert's playbook. So, really utilizing your superpower of connection as an introvert and storyteller. So, introverts can be really great storytellers just because, again, they like that deep, meaningful connection and relationship, and they like to paint a picture and really get you there in that space with them of an experience. So definitely check that out. It's on pre-sale now. I have some relationships and dating conversation cards and affirmation cards that I created, which can make great gifts for your relationship or for clients. So it can really help you in that way. And I think that's about it. All I can remember anyway. But Patrick, thank you again for having me here. It's been an absolute joy.
This is probably one of the more enjoyable podcast episodes I've done. So this was awesome. And I'm going to put all of Marquita's information in the show notes so people can find all of that information. Uh, if you are going to leave a review for her book, make sure it's 5 stars. That's the way it's got to be. But I do want to thank Marquita again. Really powerful stuff. Check all the things out that she's doing and follow her on social media for more information. If you want to learn more about me, book coaching services, take the 4-month private practice coaching program with other therapists throughout the country, be a guest on the podcast, join my Facebook group. The website is allthingspractice.com. The podcast is All Things Private Practice, and the Facebook group is All Things Private Practice. And releasing new episodes every Monday and helping you kind of feel empowered, work through vulnerability, work through imposter syndrome, and just take the leap and bet on yourself. See you next week.